The American photographer Irving Penn once said, "A good photograph is one that communicates a fact, touches the heart, and leaves the viewer changed for having seen it." For the past 15 months, I, with the rest of the staff, have been sharing weekly reflections with you on this YouTube channel. These weekly meetings came out of those dark hours of the pandemic when we could not meet in person, we could not gather for Mass. It was an opportunity for us to stay connected with you. As other staff members have shared in their reflections this week, we have decided to use the summer as a time of taking a pause, taking a break from doing these weekly reflections. And we're doing that so that we, in July and August as a staff, can consider how we will use the YouTube channel as we emerge and resume our lives, what the next chapter of the YouTube channel will be for us and for you. And it's kind of exciting for us to be thinking about some new possibilities when September comes. For those who are wondering, we will continue to live stream the Saturday 5 p.m. Mass every single week. I started with that quote from Irving Penn, and his observation about pictures is probably why I, more often than not, have had a framed picture of someone or something next to me in most of my videos. And it was more than, for me, a visual aid. It was, before I began the reflection, a kind of a meditation, something I could look at and focus on before I began to share my thoughts with you. In many ways, the Bible is like one big picture book, isn't it? It offers us these images of stories that, still inspire us and still challenge us and still guide us. So that quote again from Irving Penn, "A good photograph is one that communicates a fact, touches the heart, and leaves the viewer changed for having seen it." Today's first reading is like a picture. It's a picture between Abraham and God. They're having this conversation about the future. And God is promising Abraham that he and his wife will have a child. Their legacy will continue. But even more, God is promising Abraham that he will continue to walk with Abraham and his family, his people, as they make this journey of faith. That's the fact that is communicated in the picture of today's first reading. What touches my heart in this picture is the promise of a new beginning, the possibility of a new beginning always, no matter what is going on in the picture. That's the promise that Abraham receives from God. That is the promise that we see in the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus. After all the challenges of the past year, I realized that, at least for me, the path forward is not about returning, but it's about a new beginning for all of us. There's a lot that can burden and worry our hearts, but the promise of today's readings is that a fresh start is something that is possible, and a fresh start is what will expand and fill our hearts. And then there's that last part of the quote, that the picture leaves the viewer changed for having seen it. Abraham was never the same after his encounter with the living God. Doesn't mean Abraham was perfect. Doesn't mean he didn't make mistakes or was never frustrated. But that encounter was an experience of faith and hope and love that changed Abraham. And God says words to him that are said to us as well. "Walk in my presence and be blameless." Walk in my presence and be blameless. I think at this point in our journey, that might be our calling as well, to walk in God's presence. As we come to the months of July and August, maybe that could be your focus on your journey of faith. To consider, how well are you aware of God's presence in your daily life? And even more, what does it look like when you are walking in God's presence? What do you look like? What do you feel like? How do you choose? How do you speak when you're walking in God's presence? And how does walking in God's presence help you to try to be blameless. I don't have a picture here this week. If you notice, it's just a frame with a blank piece of white paper in it. So I think I put it there for a very specific reason. I'd like you maybe to look around your house, look at a photo album. I'd like you to take out a picture that means something to you. And maybe to put that picture someplace where you will see it each day during the summer. And when you look at that picture, to ask the Lord to give you the grace to be more Christ-like. Put it somewhere so that you will see it each day. And if it inspires you, it touches your heart, it gives you a great sense of peace, ask God to give you those things as you are making the journey of faith in these coming weeks. And maybe each day of the week in the summer, Monday through Friday, you might think of the staff, even if we're not recording a reflection. That maybe on Mondays you'll think of Tim Keyes and all the good work that he does in our liturgy and our ministry of music, and how he helps us to come closer to the Lord each week in song and in prayer. And maybe on Tuesdays you'll think of Kathy Sudo and the ministry that she does with our religious formation program, making faith real and vibrant to our families, her creative ways of doing that. And maybe on Tuesdays you might even wonder how Daisy, her dog, who is a frequent guest in those reflections, how she's doing. And then on Wednesday, you might think of Trish Scalise and her very fine and effective work in leadership and spirituality, in diversity and in justice issues. How we are all being called to live our faith with determination and conviction and enthusiasm. And then maybe on Thursdays, you'll think of Chris Small, who also in very creative ways engages our high school students, helps them to know the Lord, helps them to find their place in the church. And maybe you might also, in the month of August, pray for them, the youth group, as they head to mission in Appalachia. Know that whatever you're doing, wherever you are, we are all thinking about you. The staff is thinking about you. We're praying for you. We are always lifting you up to the Lord. And we always talk about you with great fondness, with great admiration, and with great gratitude when we meet. And maybe on Fridays, you might remember some memorable picture that was here to my side. Maybe a picture that meant something to you and inspired you or challenged you. But even more on Fridays, I want you to remember that the weekend is upon you. And if you're in town, to make it your plan to be here at church, to gather with us, as we couldn't for so many months, to gather with us and to be grateful for all the blessings that God has given to us. And if you are away on vacation, to find a church nearby and to go to Mass and pray for us as we will be praying for you, that we will all walk blamelessly in the presence of the Lord. I wish you a wonderful summer. I will see you at Mass on the weekends, and we will return in September to this channel.